Thanks very much for being with us right here on ET Now. The tagline of your book, Hit Refresh, reads, "The quest to rediscover Microsoft's soul and imagine a better future of employees." What in your mind is the soul of Microsoft, and how do you go about discovering it?
That's a great observation and a question in some sense, which is, I felt that at Microsoft we are at our best when that sense of purpose, that identity was being reinforced with new technologies. But that thing that remained constant is what I went and searched for. And that's why I invoke even the word soul.
That's right, yes.
In fact, if you think about it, the first product that Microsoft created, that Paul and Bill created, was the basic interpreter for the Altair.
That's right.
I think therein lies everything that one needs to know about Microsoft, which is we create technology so that others can use our technology to create more technology. Whether it's Word and somebody using it to write a masterpiece or using Visual Studio to write a world-changing app, that's who we are. In fact, recently when I was launching some milestones on our quantum computing quest, the first thing we did was to build a simulator for quantum algorithms on Azure. And that's when it strikes, that's what comes innately to us, what comes naturally to us, and that's our soul, that I want us to reinforce, refresh with new technologies, but remain constant in that sense of purpose.
So, when you rediscover soul, it's almost changing a culture, and culture is always very tough to change. You have taken it upon yourself to recreate Microsoft in your own image. I mean, that's the sense I get when I read this book, really, with the focus on learning, on empathy, and on building software for the good of people at large. How have both Bill and Steve taken this? Because in some sense, you're trying to transform the baby that they have brought up.
In fact, one of the best pieces of advice I got for both Bill and Steve was that to be myself as a leader versus try to fill the shoes of a Bill Gates or a there's no question that they created the Microsoft that I grew up in. And what is important to us, in fact, the thing that I've always realized is, or I've come to realize more so, is that what makes you successful in the first place grows capability and culture around it. But the interesting thing is, whatever it is, the new novel idea at what was successful ultimately runs out of gas. You need a new novel idea to keep you fresh. That's when culture matters. Sometimes culture is implicit in a successful organization. But when the organization needs it the most to be able to come up with a new concept is where culture matters. So that's why, to me, culture is everything, especially if you had success.
Are you on track to recreating that culture, to rediscovering the soul?
One of the things that I even frame this as, it's not about reaching any given destination. Because the day I say we have rediscovered or achieved some transformation is the day then something is wrong. I think of this as a continuous process of renewal. I mean, organizational success is not about celebrating what happened yesterday. It is about being able to question, in fact, what are the things that we can do better tomorrow based on what happened yesterday. And to me, that's why this culture of being a learn-it-all versus a know-it-all has been so important.
And it has to be a process than a destination. In your book, you talk a lot about your high school, a lot more than college. So in some sense, are you someone who believes that high school perhaps is more important than the university one attends, the schools that you've been to? Because and does that really form your worldview, your formative years, really?
I think all of your life, whether it's the high school, the college, or your work, to me, it's this, the thing is being able to listen to your life's journey and to learn from it, perhaps, is what I think shapes you. I mean, you are your life. And what life has taught you along the way. And for me, obviously, growing up in Hyderabad, then going to college in Manipal, and then going to University of Wisconsin and University of Chicago were all very much, like when I look back at what all I learned, all four of those institutions have had tremendous impact on me.
So, apart from the institutions, how was it growing up in a household? And not many will know unless you, of course, read this book. You grew up in a household with an IS father with Marxist leanings and a Sanskrit scholar for a mother. Were you pulled in two directions? And what sort of learnings did your parents really impart to you, given that they were very polarized in terms of their belief systems?
They definitely were, came from two different spots
Yes.
in the spectrum of even their intellectual pursuit. But I would say, I think my dad's intellectual ambition and search for ideas, excitement around new ideas, clearly rubbed off on me. But I think that intellectual ambition was given, I would say, a grounding, perhaps the source of really this empathetic understanding of the world around me from my mom. And I, was telling my dad even the other day that, the enduring lessons of my mother is what I perhaps am more influenced by than even my father. But in some sense, the two of them really let me be. In fact, I sort of write in the book, which is their intellectual wars at home.
Right.
I ignored them both, and I was more a worshipper of cricket. But in some sense, when I look back, they gave me this space to think for myself, to form my own opinions, as opposed to fall victim to any dogma of theirs.
So you would rather prefer a Jaisimha poster in the room than the goddesses and Marxists. But you also had to give up your green card to marry the girl you loved. And you used the anecdote to make a larger point around the absurdity of visa rules then. Are you worried about the way the world is moving? Are we perhaps creating more walls than breaking them?
To me, I look back at my own life's journey and life story, and especially as an American citizen, I reflect on the two what is amazingly American things that have impacted me. One is American technology, in fact, Microsoft technology growing up, that reached me where I was growing up and made it possible for me to even dream the dream. And then the American immigration policy that let me live that dream. And I think each country has to deal with the hard challenge of immigration. I think high-skilled immigration is perhaps one of the more easier challenges to overcome, because after all, it is in our interest as America to be able to attract people to contribute to our society, and I definitely represent that. But I do believe you're right in saying that we can't go back, right? The world is connected. The world is global. We share the climate together. We share a lot of our natural resource wealth and the challenges and the opportunities. But that doesn't mean that every country, that every government has to first and foremost think about their own people, their own equitable growth.
That's right.
And so I think we have to strike that new balance where it's not one versus the other. We can remain global citizens while looking clear-eyed at the real challenges of the people around us.
At home.
So that at home, so that in India or in the United Kingdom or in the United States, if the broader middle class or the lower middle class or the poor people every day are not able to see more of their prosperity increase or their opportunities increase, no amount of globalization is going to be great for them. You
say it in your book, and I kind of agree with you completely when you say we are a product of our experiences. And I'm going to touch upon something that's very personal, and you've put it out there. In that sense, what role has your son Zain played in making you the individual and the leader that you are today? Because, you say that it took you some years to come to grips with his cerebral palsy, whereas your wife perhaps was more pragmatic, and she took it on more early, perhaps because of her empathetic approach. So what role has he played?
I mean, a lot. In fact, as I've reflected back in course of writing this book, on those, what are those moments of hit refresh in my personal life that perhaps most influenced me? Definitely the birth of Zain. For me, I was 29 years old. Both my wife and I were the only children. And so the birth of the first child was more a big anticipated event.
That's
and,
right.
When he was born and we understood that this was going to be a life that was going to be full of a lot of challenges for him, I must say I did, take multiple years where I was struggling with it. I was struggling because I felt that something happened to my plans and my dreams.
That's right.
Versus coming to realize that nothing happened to me and something happened to Zain. And that's where Anu, my wife's sort of own reaction, really, instead of schooling me, it was through her practice. What came practically to her, what came naturally to her, is perhaps what helped me understand that the sense of empathy one needs in order to do their job better. In this case, being able to see Zain's needs and me as a parent and a father stepping up. And quite frankly, that's what, to me, today as a leader, being able to see us in them and them in us, I think is so key for leaders to be able to lead.
No, I think the empathy part in your book, and especially when you talk about Zen, was very moving, and I must congratulate you that you could put a deeply personal experience up there for making people understand why empathy is important. But I'll take a break from the person and the individual that you are and talk to you about the world around us. One recurring question that I think all of us are asking is the impact of artificial intelligence or artificial general intelligence, or AGI as it's being called, where machines are now learning on their own without the human input. How should we look at AI? Is it something that we need to fear? Is it something that we need to embrace? Or is it something that we perhaps need to cautiously manage?
We should be clear-eyed about both the opportunities of AI to in fact empower people, to be able to create economic opportunity, as well as the challenges that come from automation. For example, just in India itself, I was sort of amazed to see how AI is having everyday impact. One of the things is in agriculture, which is one of the oldest industries of ours. We are now able to take all of the data and the ability to do machine learning on data and improve yields on when to sow seeds so that you can have maximum yield. Farmer, that's everything. For example, one of the other things is we have a bot that creates handloom designs. I had not realized this, but one of the drivers of productivity in handlooms is new designs. And today it's a pretty laborious process because we don't have enough people who are master weavers. So therefore, to democratize and improve productivity even in handloom so that they can compete in a competitive marketplace, you need sort of AI assistance.
That's right, yes.
The other area, for example, is for people with accessibility challenges. One of the applications we have called Seeing AI is transforming how people with visual impairment can fully participate in our society because they can simply take a camera on a phone and turn it into a sensor of what's happening around them. Or learning tools in Word is changing how people with dyslexia can start reading. So I think no question, we've got to be clear about the impact of AI on jobs and the jobs of the future, and I'm excited about even what LinkedIn can do to help us sense what the jobs are and the skills required. But I also want us to grab hold of all of these opportunities AI creates in the first place.
So, while you talk about AI for the positive things that is being used for, how does one ensure that AI stays within the moral and ethical boundaries around us? I mean, how do you ensure that an AI enthusiast is not going to perhaps fashion it and put it to some radical use?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is, in fact, the real challenge and also the choice. Because in some sense, I feel that we as humans shouldn't abdicate responsibility for the technology we create or the AI we create. It's a design choice. For example, we can design AI so that we can, as humans, always be in the loop. We can design AI so that AI is empowering people, not displacing people. We can design AI so that it doesn't have unintended bias. And we can, in fact, have a legal framework even that keeps us accountable for the AI we create. So I think some of these design choices that we make are perhaps going to shape more of the future than some unknown circumstance. There will always be, with any new technology, unintended consequences.
Yes.
But I think the moral responsibility as creators of AI that we have is to make wise choices of how we create AI.
And that's where the caution comes in. I'm going to ask you another deeply personal question. In a year where there is bro culture and harassment that has been at the forefront, not just in the Valley, but also in Hollywood, a lot of people believe that you and Sundar Pichai are the good guys in the Valley. You're bringing back humility to the Valley in a lot of ways. Are we perhaps seeing a new breed of leaders where he or she is not the center of the universe? And is that what is leadership going to be going forward?
I think that one of the things I as a CEO of Microsoft, care deeply about is, in some sense, it's as simple as understanding that the success of the organization or success of me as a leader is only going to be based on the ability for everyone who works at Microsoft to be able to do their very best work. And that can be even an industry statement. In tech, for example, one of the challenges we have is how do we create a real inclusive culture so that women and ethnic minorities can come in and be proportionally represented, but not just proportionally represented, but can do their very best work. That means they need to feel welcome. They need to feel that they belong. And that is where I think leaders like me have to take responsibility, set the tone. And I think the industry, I think, is waking up. And I'm so glad to see that this conversation no longer is sort of a side conversation, but it's a mainstream conversation. And so I feel that it's time for change, and I'm glad the dialogue is happening, and I'm very optimistic.
I think a lot of people will give you the credit for being a catalyst for that change. But I have picked last 2 minutes on the show, and I'm going to throw a rapid fire at you, which I hope will be rapid and fiery enough. ML Jayasimha was one of your all-time favorite cricketers. Who's your favorite amongst the top crop right now, and why?
I would say Ashwin for his variety as a spin bowler.
One movie that portrayed artificial intelligence in the best possible way.
Her.
A course you signed up for recently on Coursera.
Deep learning.
A tech company CEO you count on as a friend.
Shantanu Narayan.
The thing you get in India but not in the United States.
Watch cricket live.
Recite one line of poetry or ghazal from your favorite poet.
तू शहीन है परवाज है काम तेरा तेरे सामने आसमां और भी है.
The latest book that you read.
Manhattan Beach.
What's on your mobile home screen?
Skype, Outlook.
Why am I not surprised? Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Which is better, Delhi, Mumbai or Bangalore?
I love them all.
On that note, thanks very, very much
for
speaking.
Thank you so much.
Such a pleasure.
Thank you so much.